But let's start with a question we ask here on The Story from time to time. How are you feeling about Portland these days, especially downtown? Are you ready to come downtown for work, to go to a show, or to go out to eat? Well, the Portland Metro Chamber just released its annual State of the Economy report, which included an entire section on downtown. We're diving into that tonight. It is our big story tonight. Well, if you ask the Portland Metro Chamber where we go from here in regard to the Rose City, they say it's time to stop comparing Portland to its past and start working on something new, especially when it comes to downtown. Well, let's get into the report now. First, who's actually moving to the Portland area? Well, we've heard for a while now that people are actually leaving Portland. The Portland Metro Chamber says that trend is continuing. When you look at the 4 counties in the metro area, 3 of them have been losing people in the last 2 years after a decade of growth. Multnomah County especially losing more than 10,000 people last year and 12,000 the year before. Now, Clackamas and Washington counties have also seen their populations drop. But it's a much different story in Clark County, which grew by more than 3,000 people last year. Why? Well, the chamber says there could be a lot of reasons, but they're chalking it up to 3 big things. People changing up their lifestyles now that working from home is more common, an unaffordable housing market in the Portland area, and yes, you guessed it, high taxes. Now, they said big declines in Multnomah County's population, which contribute to a region-wide loss, suggest too many households and businesses see better value propositions elsewhere. Once a migration magnet, the Portland area appears to have hit an affordability wall. Meanwhile, in Clark County, they say people and businesses are being lured by lower taxes and more available land, along with new development like the Vancouver waterfront. Now, Portland's real estate market has become unattractive on a national scale. Back in 2017, the Urban Land Institute had us ranked near the top, 96th percentile. But as you can see, we've fallen sharply since then, just dropped right off, and that fall started happening before the pandemic, although it really sped up in 2020. Now we're ranked 51 out of 80. When it comes to building new housing in Portland, the chamber found a sharp drop-off in permits for new construction because of high interest rates, limited access to capital, and a slowdown in permitting. They say it doesn't bode well for housing affordability in Portland's future, and they don't think the metro area will meet the state's housing goals. Remember, Governor Kotek wanted to build 36,000 new units of housing a year. So now let's look closer at downtown. According to a report by real estate firm Colliers, about 1/3 of Portland's offices are empty right now, and they're expecting that number to rise to about 40% this year as leases that were signed before the pandemic expire and they don't get renewed. The Metro Chamber's report shows we have 8.6 million square feet of empty office space right now. To put that in perspective, that's like having 44 standard Walmart stores all sitting empty. Well, city leaders have made a big push in the past couple of years to get workers back downtown, even recently urging private companies to get office workers back. Now the Portland Metro Chamber says that strategy is not likely to bear fruit.
We sort of have hit what is likely our ceiling in office return. So we have to stop making that comparison, because what we were going to achieve through really solid efforts of bringing people back to the core, we have achieved that. Now, because of that new sort of ceiling that we have relative to 19, that means that we're seeing empty buildings and that we are seeing less people here.
Now, Hone says it's time to envision a new downtown Portland.
And that is going to look different than what it was. And it will, if we do our jobs right, contain a lot more housing. So we have a more mixed use environment in our downtown, and that will spur more retail activations. And of course, attendance to our major cultural institutions, performing art venues, the things that you want to see vibrant. So a future downtown is going to see a lot more people living in it than just working in it, and a better balance of office and housing, which is necessary for what I think, and what I think most people are coming to the same conclusion. The new downtown, the new central city, won't just be office 9 to 5. It's going to be 24/7, 365 live, work, play types of neighborhoods that celebrate the cultural institutions, the retail establishments, but that are neighborhoods. And we need to establish downtown as a neighborhood that people live in.
Now, the Urban Land Institute agrees. They wrote in that same report that rated Portland less attractive for real estate investment. Hybrid work is here to stay. The real estate industry has largely accepted that the office sector will not be returning to its pre-pandemic state, as employee work and commuting preferences are standing firm. Office buildings have lost their appeal to investors, with sales transactions down more than twice as much as other major property types. Well, we wanted to find out how people in commercial real estate are feeling about that assessment. So we reached out to the Revitalize Portland Coalition. They're a group of property owners and managers here in Portland. They say private industry wants to be part of the solution, but they need support.
You know, the pivot needs to include supports for small biz, for, you know, the kind of livability items that Portland is so famous for. As well as, you know, a pivot that says, okay, what are we going to do with this commercial space, and in terms of residential or innovation hubs or, you know, new ways of working. That's a big shift, and you know, we need a functional city and county government to support those efforts.
Yeah, it's a lot of shifting and pivoting, isn't it? Well, Cole says that when it comes to reimagining Portland, downtown and its empty office space buildings, especially our local governments, still need to tackle the public safety and homelessness issues. And they need to cut more of the red tape that comes with development.
I think there's a lot of proposals and ideas about what you shift to and how you do it. The bottom line for us, though, is that development is very cumbersome and difficult in the environment now, but this is pre-pandemic too. So we have the government has a lot of ability to incentivize, you know, innovative development, new ideas, but they've got to take steps to make that process more predictable, you know, the permitting process and the planning process more predictable and more flexible. And we've seen some steps around the residential housing reforms that the city just passed, but there's a much longer way to go. And you know, these things tie together because we need outside investments, and that depends on the livability and the public image, you know, of Portland. But those outside investors are also looking at what does it take to put up or convert a building. And, you know, when we have our, you know, significant hurdles in that governmental process, we don't look as attractive as other cities do.
All right, now it's time for you to weigh in, like we like you to do. What do you want to see for the future of Portland, especially downtown? And what do you think is standing in the way of that? Email us at thestory@kgw.com, or of course you can always call and leave a voicemail at the number there, 503-226-5090.